Okay, so if you managed to digest or go through all the videos I posted last time, I'd like to point out that the last dream I posted in the series of linked videos was indicative of some sort of volcanic activity. There was a lot of black plumes, and now if we look at all this activity that's going on recently with multiple volcanic eruptions, I would ask, where does all the material come from? And if you have a volcanic eruption, sometimes you'll have a ground collapse in the immediate area. Get ready for this one. This is entertainment value here, because it's really a long stretch. What if some of that material, or what if the reservoir for that material is actually the United States, or more specifically maybe the western United States? So I'm thinking a little bit big chemistry, but this Earth sometimes is a little bit more complicated than your typical rudimentary sciences. The whole emerging properties with macro systems, our large systems. And what if we see that all that material that's been expelled by these volcanoes causes ground collapse that are indicative of the volume lost in these volcanic eruptions, and a lot of other factors that would probably come into play. And I did mention aquifers, reservoirs, a lot of obvious stuff that we see with ground elevation decreasing in California and other parts of the world. A family has been booted out of their home after a mud volcano was found erupting in their backyard. Susan Getty, who lived in Rotorua on New Zealand's North Island, told ABC she was woken Tuesday about 2 a.m. by what she thought was an earthquake. We actually see that in Texas too. Large sinkholes coming up in a lot of parts of the world. So it's just something I wanted to throw out there, and then cover with the UFO sightings. It's an interesting thing. We often see UFO sightings in history. A lot of people have associated these things with earthquakes that would eventually happen after the sightings, and nuclear weapon systems. So this is straight an entertainment video. In this quote stated by Tesla, it says he put his little vibrator in his coat pocket and went out to hunt a half-erected steel building. Down in Wall Street District, he found one. 10 stories of steel framework without a brick or stone laid around it. He clamped the vibrator to one of the beams and fused with the adjustment until he got it. Tesla said finally the structure began to creak and weave, and the steelworkers came to the ground panic-stricken, believing that there had been an earthquake. Police was called out. Tesla put the vibrator in his pocket and went away. 10 minutes more, and he could have laid the building into the street. And with the same vibrator, he could have dropped the Brooklyn Bridge into the East River in less than an hour. In the 1930s, Tesla imagined using smaller devices to relieve energy from the Earth, in this case to prevent earthquakes. The tele-geodynamics system by Tesla never managed to get beyond the prototype. There's really a lot of non-science. I could say nonsense, but I'm going to say non-science in this one. With that said, I think everybody agrees things are getting pretty odd. The point that also should make is that this ash is going to be in the skies, and it's going to have an effect. We got winter coming up just around the corner. July is almost here. July seems to go by really quickly, so let's be prepared for that. But there are a couple of serious things I do want to bring up. If you get yourself cut or slightly injured, it's not going to need stitches, but you're dealing with a bleeder, I recommend this triple ointment here. I used it myself. I got myself cut with the grinder. I probably could have used a stitch, maybe two. I went through the rudimentary task of cleaning it out myself, putting pressure on it, and once it slowed down and bleeding, cleaned it out again, and did a wet to dry kind of thing, and changed the bandages every couple hours. Believe me, it frightened me. I didn't want to get sick. I'm very, very conscious and aware of all the diseases that are out there, and I did get a fever. I broke a fever within 24 hours of after having cut myself. And you're seeing stories of these flesh-eating diseases come up, and they're real. So stay healthy, be very careful, be mindful. If you got kids, you kind of got an idea what I'm saying. If you're like us, we kind of just bumped our heads and kept going. You got to be really watchful, because it's a different world we're living in, and things are getting pretty interesting. Okay, so one final note. That dream that I had, the worldwide earthquake dream, if you listen to it to its completion, I kind of thought that that end part was about technology being possessed or presented to us after natural disaster. And this is actually what we're starting to see. We're starting to see opportunistic times when cryptocurrency is actually being pushed on different cultures. You've seen that with Venezuela, and now you're actually seeing that with the volcanic eruptions happening. And I think if there's a huge worldwide natural disaster, I think you're going to see a flood of it being pushed on us. We might not even think twice, because a lot of people are going to scratch their heads and say, well, what choice do we have?
Wow, guys. So, volcanic activity really is starting to pick up along the Ring of Fire. I have a question. How in the heck are we not seeing any type of really volcanic unrest at all here in the United States? Everywhere else, in Alaska, in Russia, in everywhere along the Ring of Fire, you name it. Except if you look at where we are, there's just a little blank spot of no volcanic unrest at all. At all. What is going on? Why are we so calm here in the United States? We are so blessed here, guys. You have no idea.